Okay, welcome to the presidential debates. To begin off, we'll give you 30 seconds each to introduce yourselves and your platforms as well. So beginning with Maria.
Hi, my name is Maria Mohan. I'm running to be your next AUS president. I am the current VP External and AMS representative. My platform revolves around increasing student career and development, professional development, establishing club vision, supporting our AUS execs and coordinators in the smooth transition to the leadership roles, and optimizing our budget efficiency.
Okay,
Cool.
Jenna.
My name is Jenna O'Massey. I am the current conference coordinator and previous elections administrator for the AUS, and also highly involved in UBC sororities and in residence life. My platform includes inclusivity to make sure that we can get new students involved in the AUS, programming, and do an overview of programming to make sure that we are spending our AUS funds properly, and finally diversity, recognizing that in the 12,000 students in the Arts Undergraduate Society, there are people in over 60 specialties, and we need to be providing services and programming for all of them.
All right, first question, beginning with Jenna. The role of the president is not clearly defined. In your opinion, what do you think the role of the president is for the society?
So the role of president for this society is to support all other people on council and not to micromanage. So it is not the job of the president to be involved in every single project that every single councillor is playing out and doing, but rather to support them all and to make sure that the overarching goals of the executive are being carried out for the entire year. This means keeping people accountable, but as well aiding them in whatever they do need. But again, supporting them in their goals and not choosing your own goals to put forward. I think that my goals of inclusivity, programming, and diversity play very well into that, in that those are overarching goals that all executives and all council members can strive towards, but they do not put forward a certain policy procedure on these different executives and their own specific goals.
Okay. Maria?
I believe the role of the president does involve supporting your executives and coordinators, especially through transition time, because that's where a lot of valuable information is lost. And it's true, you should not micromanage, but at the same time, having the past experience of the portfolios that they're going into, because during the time of an exec transition, you get a little overwhelmed in the sense of all these new things you're learning. But being able to have someone see it from the outside and be able to help you and support you along the way and compare it to past events so you can get the better of the two, rather than just being like, this is how it's going to be, but let's finish it up and just get it over with, rather than perfecting what we already have.
Okay, are there any rebuttals?
I'm good.
Next question, beginning with Maria. What plan and or structure do you have in mind to keep your executive organized and unified towards goals set at the beginning of the year?
As a past exec, this helps because I actually have already been transitioned through seeing the transition process between execs and seeing how it should be done, and I can see the positive and negative side of it. And because of that, I feel that's also why one of my platform points is so strongly about coordinator transition and executive transition, because you can lay out what exactly could be improved in past exec portfolios and what we want to add into it, because I feel every candidate who's running at the moment has a specific goal they want to reach out for, and including that into the transition plan and being able to talk to a past exec about it would really help.
Okay, Jenna?
Can you repeat the question so I make sure I know exactly the answer?
What plan and or structure do you have in mind to keep your executive organized and unified towards goals set at the beginning of the year?
Perfect. So I think that Maria is completely correct in making sure that a transition period does happen and does happen effectively, meaning that transition reports should be something that the AUS is moving towards, as well as after action plans. However, I think that the largest push needs to really be halfway through the year and at all times during the year, because having been on past executives as part of many councils and many organizations, I can tell you that, and you can all probably attest to the same thing, that halfway through the year and at the end of the year, all execs are not on the same A game and not looking at the same goals as they had at the beginning of the year. I think the most important way to carry that forward is to have goals and timelines for each executive, and to make sure every month that they're keeping on top of those and to warp them and change them as they need to. And in that way, we can make sure that everyone is accountable and organized, and we can all make sure that our goals are unified through those goals and timelines at the beginning of the year and carrying them out afterwards.
Okay, any rebuttals? No? Okay. Next question, beginning with Jenna. Growth is an important word when it comes to the Arts Undergraduate Society. In what specific ways do you plan to facilitate growth for the AUS during your term?
I completely agree that growth is very important. And having been not on the executive of the AUS, but rather as a coordinator, I have had a look on the inside and outside of the AUS. And I think that the way I want to see the AUS grow and allow it to grow is to bring in new faces and to bring in new people, because I really do think that outside experiences are very important to make sure that the programming that we have is good and is valid and is applicable to all of our 12,000 Arts Undergraduate Society constituents, because right now the programming we have is really appealing to those who are a part of the undergraduate society, and not really those who are on the outside paying these fees and putting their money into all these programs that they do not attend. So I think that doing more advertising during the hiring period and making sure that more people are involved is a great way to grow, and in having those people involved, we can then grow the programs we have.
Maria?
Could you repeat the question again, please?
Growth is an important word when it comes to the AUS. In what specific ways do you plan to facilitate growth during your term?
As a past VP external, I've been able to work with other faculties and constituencies and see what works for them and what doesn't. Especially the EUS, they have, every 2 weeks they have a professional development seminar, which they hold, and they actually have a very big amount of attendees for that. Especially, and also Sauder, they have, they actually incorporate yoga and fitness things into their faculties, which their students are paying for, and the AUS should be able to do that too, along with networking events. And I also believe in getting the clubs more involved, because they are such a big part of our undergraduate society, along with the students, because they reach out to the students. Getting a more integrated system and getting our council members to work together to promote their events, get more people out. That's how we need to grow the AUS into a whole, rather than just everyone's doing their own thing.
Okay. Any rebuttals?
Yeah. Though I do see programming and more career-focused or more interesting programming as very important, I do think that getting those people out is really important, and right now we can't do that. Having worked on the conference, you can see that we struggled to get every single one of the 100 people who were there. So how do you want to, besides promoting and advertising, how do you want to get those people to come out and mobilize those people to attend all the events that we are trying to hold? Because if we have a speaker series every 2 weeks, it's very hard to get attendance every 2 weeks.
That also goes from communication, in the sense of getting the word out, because a lot of art students, there are 12,000 art students, so it's really hard to reach out to every single one and get them all to know. That's why in encompassing the clubs into it, rather than just students hearing from, say, Facebook or Twitter, get the clubs to reach out to their constituencies, get newsletters, get everything you can, posters, get things that people actually care about, rather than just a Facebook status.
So next question, beginning with Maria. These are all past presidents. Brian Platt is remembered for stabilizing the AUS. Justin Yang is known for strengthening the academic portfolio. And Harsa Boshan is known for getting the Art Student Center project going. And current President Sebastian is currently known for more student life events. What would you like to be remembered for 2 years from now, and how do you plan on working to achieve it? Starting with Maria.
Okay, I would love to get a more, a sense of community in arts, which, yes, every year the AUS president and AUS exec strive for, but I would also like arts to feel, students in arts not to feel, what can I do with my degree, rather than I have a plan. That's why I want to get more student career and professional development going on, rather than having arts as, oh, you're going to work at Starbucks? No, we're not. We can become lawyers, we can become doctors, we can become so many other things, rather than just wondering what we can do. That's why I feel like networking events and conferences and so many other things like that could help arts, which, like a career fair, I know that there's the Arts Expo, but if we have a career fair specifically for art students with not just alum, but working with the Career Center or internships or co-ops, so rather than have 12,000 students not know where to go for these facilities.
Jenna?
I would like to be remembered as offering more opportunities to art students, Right now, there are a very select few coordinator positions and volunteer positions that we actually appeal to our 12,000 constituents with. And it would be great to make sure that these opportunities are afforded to all that want to be a part of them, and not just first-year students, who are right now most of our new incoming coordinators, but rather those people in their second, third, and fourth years even, who haven't found a community on campus and would like to have the opportunity to get involved in a meaningful way. I know for myself that that was a fantastic way to get involved, because I was reached out for coordinator positions, and that's how I did get involved. And so having these opportunities to give to these students, so whether that be making a second year, third year, fourth year committee, whether that be actually providing more coordinator roles and more programming that they can get involved with, that is how I see my legacy being carried out afterwards.
Any rebuttals?
I just rebut to that. I just had a question about what you were saying about the older years. On council, we actually do have a second year rep, third year rep, and fourth year rep. And they do take part on our council for various committees that they choose to get involved in. As a student that might not be as involved in the AUS, because I know you got involved in the past year, but I was just wondering, from your outside view, how would you want to be reached out at, or how would you want to encompass all of campus, because there are so many students in Silverman.
Of course.
Get involved.
So I don't mean those second year, third year, fourth year rep positions. I rather mean coordinator positions, and making them less exclusive, and making student government less exclusive, because right now it is very hard to get involved in student government if you do not know someone. The only reason I got involved was because I did know someone who reached out to me. And so making some positions, for example, some coordinator positions open only to newcomers, or a certain number, doing specific hiring processes that actually appeal to these huge amounts of people who don't have a place on campus.
For our last question, why do you, beginning with Jenna, why do you consider yourself to be the better opponent? Oh, I mean, why do you consider yourself better than your opponent? Sorry.
Well, I think my opponent is great. But I have had a lot of leadership experience in the past. And in different organizations, not only at UBC, I transferred to UBC 2 years ago now, but on other college campuses, in other ways, so whether that be in Model UN, or in UBC sororities, or with residence life, and many other. I think that I can bring all these outside experiences to bring something different to the AUS that hasn't been seen for a few years, and bring organizations such as transition reports and goals and timelines that I've seen in other organizations. That is just an example. I think that my experiences and that my connections on campus and my ability to network can bring people out to events, get people involved, and I think that I can be a good leader to lead the next year's executives with, and a good support system for them as well.
Maria?
Yeah, I believe Jenna is a great candidate. I don't mean to be cheesy, but ever since coming into UBC, like my second week at UBC, I became the AUS first year rep. Since then, I've become VP External, AMS rep. The AUS has literally become my home away from home. I come into the office, I see so many friendly faces. I just love everything about the AUS and what it's given me as a person. I would love the chance to just give so much more back to the community that gave me so much through my past experiences. And I'm also involved in UBC sororities. I was also in Res Life before. I would love to bring my connections in, and the support system of already knowing the background of the AUS, along with past execs, past coordinators who have shown me what they want to be different or what they want to be improved. I believe that knowledge would be a great asset to have in a president.
Okay. We will now open the floor up to the audience for any questions, if there are any. Yes.
So every year, obviously, each portfolio under the president has their strengths and weaknesses. Over the past year or 2 years, or historically, which do you think has been like the weakest portfolio, the portfolio with the most potential that hasn't been living up to it? And how would you kind of focus on that portfolio and change things to make it more impactful for students or for whatnot?
So just a reminder, you have 30 seconds to respond, beginning with Maria.
I would say, honestly, looking back and doing my research on the past execs before our exec this year, I would say all the portfolios have a specific section that they could be worked on, and that's why I am pushing for a more transparent and better transition for the execs, because I feel like throughout the years we lose more and more information, and I would say all the portfolios can honestly be perfected.
Jenna?
I think that the academic portfolio, which has been worked on tremendously in the last year, but it was definitely lacking and still is, in that we are all university students, and we come here first and foremost for our classes and for academics, and this should be a large pillar in the Arts Undergraduate Society to support our students. And initiatives like the conference and wellness that have come into being in the last year have been great, but I think we need to make a lot of strides in that portfolio.
Are there any more questions from anyone? Yes?
Hypothetical situation. You get elected to become president, and one of the execs elected as a vice president to you does not like you, hates you, and will not even want to see your face. How do you go about working with that exec over the course of the year?
Beginning with Jenna?
Okay. Yes, this should be a friendly relationship, but it's also a professional one. And I've worked on executives with people that I maybe did not get along with very well. And you just have to be professional and have to be mature. And if they're not doing so, you can speak to them as well. Working in residence life as a residence advisor, I've had situations like this as well. And this is a peer helping situation, and this is a situation where you really have to act as the bigger person.
Right.
Although I don't believe any of the candidates would review like that. Thank you for your question, though. I believe that rather than making it a more prominent thing, take that person aside and talk to them one-on-one, and rather support them and find out why they feel this way or why they feel it's right to act that way. I'd rather have a connection with that person rather than just pretend it's not there. Issues like these need to be faced rather than ignored, and I'd rather not, although yes, the exec needs to be united, I believe if there's a problem between two execs,
Okay, any other questions? Yes?
In your opinion, what should be done with the surplus that the AUS has?
Beginning with Maria.
I believe it is in our best interest to actually put it into an endowment fund where with a high interest, so we can take the interest from that at the end of the year to put towards the students, and always have that fund ready for us in case of an emergency, rather than if an emergency is to happen, which I hope it doesn't, that we're not scrambling around for anything.
Jenna?
I agree with Maria. I'm also inclined to answer that if there are any initiatives that can be funded by this surplus, that they should be considered. A perfect example is UBC Sororities has a large surplus that I am currently dealing with on their executive, and we are saving it, but at the same time, realizing that if there are any projects that can be benefited from it, it should be used in a small way, not all at once.
We do have time for more questions. Yes?
So we're very fortunate to have two such friendly candidates running in this presidential election. But many a times when we interact with art students, we see that they think of the AUS executive as people that they need to look up to, as opposed to someone that they can, as their equal. So how would you make yourself more accessible to art students, and how would you interact with art students on a more daily basis and listen to them?
Beginning with Jenna.
Can you repeat your question, because I think you contradicted. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I guess my question is, how would you make yourself more accessible to art students, and how would you just listen to them and just make yourself more accessible, I guess?
Well, one of the initiatives I hope to carry forward is a programming review. So both looking at how programs have succeeded or not in the past, and trying to revamp what we have as programming, and in that it would be largely outreaching to current students and speaking to them, and hopefully in engaging them in projects like that, then there will be more forums for them to come out. Obviously we've seen with projects like the ASC outreach that has been done, it's very hard to get students involved, but opening those channels and making them available.
Wait.
Actually, through my past role as first year rep, that was one of our duties as first year rep to get all the first years out to events or see what they wanted to do. So my fellow first year rep, Vivian, and I actually went through talking to people on res and seeing like what they would want brought into the AUS, because that was how we went about our first year. And especially through BP External, having one of the portfolios be communication.
Any more questions?
Sorry, just the last question. So we have the Art Student Center right now that's currently in the works. With the new Art Student Center coming up, there will be questions about funding, the abilities for the abilities that the AUS has of funding for, say, security for the building, you know, the building operations, right? Right now, Art students pay $13. We had a referendum recently that failed for increasing students' fees. Do you guys think you would consider running a referendum to potentially increase student fees, or maybe even attach it to CPI, because it's, I don't know, since 2001 that it hasn't been attached to CPI?
Beginning with Jen.
I actually don't see us needing to raise student fees yet, because it's very hard to convince students to raise student fees for something that they won't see in their immediate future. So I do think that raising student fees and having that referendum question is something that should come in the future when we do see this project coming to fruition, because right now it's just an idea that we have and we have plans, but it's not, it hasn't had any steps really to go forward.
Maria?
I completely agree with that, because the students who aren't going to actually get to use the building shouldn't have to pay for it at the moment. But I feel like because of that, that is a good point. I would prefer putting a referendum on that, but due to the fact that we do have a surplus, putting it in an endowment would help us, because if we did need that extra money, we would have it accessible.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
So, as president, you would have the opportunity to oversee all of the different portfolios. And what I'm wondering is how you would make sure that a regular student's interaction with the AUS brand is always perceived as something that is respectful and respectable.
Beginning with Maria.
Can you rephrase that question? Sorry.
So, as president, you're up here, you get to interact with all the different executive portfolios. If it's an academic conference, if it's frosh, any kind of event that the AUS has where you're interacting with students that may not know what is the AUS in the first place. So, given that role, how will you make sure that a regular student's interaction with the AUS, so as a coordinator, as an attendee to an event that's media, that they perceive the AUS as an organization that is respectable and respectful to the values of the students around it?
Well, through being a Frosty and a Frosh leader, I have never actually thought of the AUS as not a respectable organization, but I guess that's because I've been fortunate to meet so many great people through it, and I haven't met a coordinator that made me feel otherwise. But if that did arise, I would try to work around and see why that student felt that way, or work with that coordinator to better understand why they would act that way.
Okay. Jenna?
The AUS as an organization should be cohesive not only in its executives, but in all its coordinators and volunteers and anyone who's representing it. And I think something very beneficial to go along with that is communicating that to all coordinators, making sure that there is a high sense of respect and responsibility in positions, and making sure, and I'm losing the word now, but making sure that making sure that there's uniformity between communication for all coordinators and execs.
Okay. We have time for one last question. Yes.
So just to wrap up everything, could you just end with some closing remarks and maybe your platform, website, things like that?
Beginning with Jen.
So once again, my name is Jenna O'Massey. I'm a third-year double major in International Relations and Religious Studies, and I am really pushing inclusivity, overviewing programming, and supporting the diversity that is in arts. You can find out more about my platform at votejenna.wordpress.com or at votejennaomassey for AUS President as the Facebook page, and you can also feel free to message me with any questions or concerns that you may have.
Maria?
Hi, my name is Maria Mohan, and as you know, I'm running to be your AUS president. I'm a determined second-year student who's majoring in philosophy, who's passionate about bringing our community together. I've been your past first-year rep, current VP External, and AMS rep. The AUS is a second home to me, and I would love the opportunity to give so much more back to it. I'm experience-driven, and I have the heart to lead the AUS into a brighter future. If you want more details on my platform, you can visit me at votemariamohan.com or feel free to message me at maria.mohan@hotmail.com.
Okay, thank you.